announcement.
Hey.
Well, welcome everybody as we are at our second to the last LCAP meeting. However, this is the one where we go over more of the draft LCAP, and also on our agenda are questions for the superintendent, but also I think we will be getting information on the expanded learning opportunity grant. So I think with that, I'll welcome everybody, and I'll turn it over to you, John.
Great, thanks, Tom. Again, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is John Tornatore, and I'm the Director of Continuous Improvement in LCAP here in San Juan. In addition to some of our reoccurring operational items, as Tom mentioned, our agenda this evening is going to include some time to review stakeholder input themes and considerations. We're also going to take a little time to review our 2021-2024 draft LCAP. We will also have an opportunity to develop questions connected to the LCAP for our superintendent to respond to in writing. But to start us off this evening, I would like to just ground our work together as a team in a similar way that we have the last few meetings, just by reviewing our LCAP norms and values here. So I'd just like to take a minute here. Please review these and just pick one that resonates with you that you would like to focus on this evening. So again, please review our LCAP PAC norms and values and pick one that resonates with you and that you would like to focus on this evening. All right, so thank you, everyone. I'm going to turn it over now to our board president, Ms. Villescaz, and then to Superintendent Kern, who will be providing us with an update. So President Villescaz, if you would like to share anything, the floor is yours.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that. And thank you all for being here and dedicating your evening to this really, really important work. On behalf of the board, I just want to say thank you. I just think in terms of, I'll give a kind of general update, but we're closing in on the end of the school year here, which of course means a series of all kinds of recognition and acknowledgement events. Super excited that we've been able to kind of pivot a good portion of our events, recognizing our seniors in particular in person. So it was really nice to be able to do our AVID celebration in person and do everything along with the protocols, etc., and keep everyone safe, but just see our community come together. We'll be kind of on a fast speed through the end of the year, and even through some work that's going to continue through the summer. I know Kent's going to cover some of that work as well, but excited to kind of wind down the school year, although that doesn't really mean that all the work winds down. So more to come. We'll get a little more details as well on that, but first and foremost, just want to say thank you. Okay. Or I'll actually ask really quick, Dr. McKibben, did you have anything you wanted to add? You're on mute.
There it goes. Okay. I just wanted to say, I just wanted to mention last night, Paula, all four of the board members were on the Seal of Biliteracy things, and Paula presented the, 430 different San Juan students that were part of the approximately 2,700 students in Sacramento County that received the Board of Biliteracy. and Paula incidentally was a rock star as she presented all the people to us. And I can't tell you how proud all of the board members were for these students that had tested in a language, had taken 4 years of a world language and so forth. And it just kind of talked about language as an entree to the world and so forth. And I couldn't have been more proud of them. And that was after the AVID presentation, where most of these students who are the first of their families to go to college celebrated their completion of high school. It's, as Paula said, it's a great time. It's a time to celebrate, and we're looking forward to the live graduations this year and so forth. But it's best time of the year for board members, at least.
John, I'll jump in. So today we had, I'll just share with you because it was a really nice event, our partnership VIP reception, which is really our partnerships with all of our community groups. And I'll tell you, Natalia and Benita, who have been leading that work this year, we've actually expanded our partnerships this year during one of the most difficult years we've ever had. It was neat to hear one of the professors from Sac State say that San Juan Unified is the only district doing work around equity and race. He doesn't have any other districts in the region that are doing some of this work directly with teachers, and even offered the idea next year of celebrating those teachers, which I thought was a great idea. And you know, there were over 70 folks on there, so we probably had 30, 40 plus partners that have worked with us this last year. But I think the highlight for those of us, and I know both Paula and Mike were on there as well, was hearing from 2 students. And I think talking to Natalia and Benita afterwards, what made that so special is they already had some of the partners reach out to them and saying, hearing from the students was so impactful, because usually we have partners share, but this was the first time we had the students share to the partners, and they could see how their work with the district was making a difference with our students. So that was just really exciting. Another real positive for us. So a great way to kind of end today, and then to come here tonight and hear the input from the group as well. I would encourage the members, the PAC members who are here, you're going to get kind of just a snapshot tonight related to ELO, because one of the things is we have not presented this to the board yet. And actually had the chance to talk to one of your members today, and I said, we can't get out in front of the board on this. So they'll get the whole presentation Tuesday. You're going to see just a portion of what we're going to present. Once that board packet goes out, there will be more information in that than what you're going to get tonight from Deputy Superintendent Bassinelli. But I would encourage you to tune into the board meeting next Tuesday night, because you're really going to see how the work related to the grants and partnering federal dollars really aligns with a lot of the feedback that we've gotten from our community as we move forward in the coming year. So I'll leave it with that, John, and turn it back over to you.
All right, well, thank you so much. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to turn it over to our Deputy Superintendent, Ms. Bassinelli, who's going to share some information regarding the Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant that Superintendent Kern was just referring to.
Great, thanks so much. And Laura, I hope, do I already have screen sharing privileges, or do you need to give those to me? Great, thank you. Okay. I'm excited tonight to share with you some of the work that has been happening behind the scenes related to the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant Plan. Some of you may be aware, but for those that aren't, I just want to provide a little bit of background. In March, Assembly Bill 86 was signed into law, and it allocated about $4.6 billion in state funding to local education agencies such as school districts. What that means for San Juan is that we've been provided approximately $27 million in funding. With this funding, there are very specific parameters. And so at least 85% of those funds must go towards providing in-person services. In addition, at least 10% must go towards the hiring of paraprofessionals, either hiring those who, either those that we had laid off as a part of the pandemic, or hiring new paraprofessionals. These are specific to providing instructional and support services, supplementary support services to students. Inside of this, there is also the expectation that we provide supplemental instruction supports for social emotional well-being and meals to targeted students. And you can see the list of targeted students in the box in the blue to the right. And inside of that list, you'll recognize some of the same groups that we target as a part of our supplemental funds, but you can also see that it's been expanded. That list is expanded to include students such as disengaged students, students who are at risk of abuse, neglect, or exploitation. And this is identified with a written referral from legal, medical, or a social service agency or emergency shelter. Also, students who are behind grade level, students with disabilities, and then you can see that included in that is our targeted populations as a part of our supplemental funding. This was a really fast, accelerated timeline that we received this information. So like I said, it was signed into law in March, and then it took a few weeks for CDE to provide districts with the template and more of the how to apply for these funds. So we didn't get that template until right before spring break, with webinars, instructional webinars of the process and what to do about 2 weeks following that, about in mid-April. So the deadline to submit this plan to the County Office of Education is June 1st. And so that means that it needs to go to our board for discussion as well as action prior to that. And this funding, it's funded through August 31st, 2022. And Superintendent Kern alluded to this being a part of a multi-year plan. And I'll explain a little bit more about that later, because how might we do a multi-year plan with such finite funding that's going to end in a year? So I'll get to that later on in the presentation. Some key terms that I just want to highlight is the use of supplemental instruction and support. So supplemental instruction is really focused on instructional programs that are in addition to what we provide already. And then for support, these are interventions that are provided to supplement those that we regularly provide. And it's really designed to meet the needs of students related to their behavioral, social, emotional, or other supports they might need in order to engage in the learning. The plan requirements, I'm going to start. There's 7 strategies that have been identified as a part of the legislation that districts can write their plan towards. And we can write towards all 7 strategies, or we can, based off of input and our needs analysis, we can say we're going to we're going to write towards 4 of these strategies, 1 of these strategies, but I want to walk the pack through the 7 strategies. So starting with the left, extending the instructional time, this is really towards increasing the days or minutes in the school year. And it can also include summer school or intersession activities. Moving up, accelerating progress to close gaps. This is the implementation, expansion, or enhancement of learning supports. Some examples can include tutoring, learning recovery programs that focus on language proficiency or reading, and also educator training. Moving up, for integrated student supports to address barriers to learning. This is really talking about the mental health services, counseling, meals, before and after school programs, social emotional learning programs, all the extra support students might need in order to really attend to learning. In terms of community hubs, this is really focused on providing students access to technology, high-speed internet, as well as other academic supports. Moving over, supports for credit deficient students. This piece, this strategy is really talking about supports that help students complete their graduation requirements, but also help students be promoted to the next grade level, as well as increasing or improving college eligibility. Additional academic services for students. This is really speaking towards our assessment practices, our diagnostic, progress monitoring, and benchmark assessments that help us know what to do next in terms of instruction and student learning. And then the last one, the training for school staff on strategies. That's really specific in terms of the training for school staff around trauma-informed practices, as well as engaging students and families in addressing social emotional learning needs, as well as academic needs. Stakeholder engagement and getting input is a piece of the requirement for this plan. And so fortunately, as a part of our continuous practice in San Juan, we've done a lot of work in engaging stakeholders and gathering input. And so what we did was we took the input that we've been collecting along the way and related to the development of the LCAP. And we also took the input that we had been gathering along the way in terms of our distance learning efforts and what we needed to do next. And then we took opportunities that we had real time in the moment to try to gather additional input. And so you can see here the different groups that we've gathered input from reflected on this slide through those channels. And I'm going to talk a little bit about just some of the themes that we lifted out of the input that was collected for some of the groups. So I know the PAC will recognize this. This is just a snapshot of the first page of all the input that was gathered as a part of the LCAP development. And you see, you recognize the questions 1, 2, and 3, those key questions that we asked to lift up themes for various groups. And so what was kind of exciting in terms of the ELO development is that we know that we have the LCAP process that is in place, the development of that plan, and we have input that's been collected that is forming that plan. And so now we have an opportunity with these one-time dollars to kind of add to and pilot some additional supports that maybe we weren't able to put in the larger LCAP plan. So with this piece of engagement, some key themes that we lifted out was the need for peer interaction and that community building. Mental health supports kept coming up, as well as credit recovery, and the desire for real world experiences that were just hands-on, exciting, and engaging that our students felt like they wanted more of, particularly coming out of distance learning. We also launched a thought exchange recently as an opportunity to gather more input. And so these are the key thoughts that came out of the thought exchange, which were around classroom supports, either by reducing class size or adding more staff to the classroom to support the learning, whether it was classified staff or certificated staff. Additionally, intervention teachers was another key thought. Free tutoring was another piece, as well as enrichment programs such as art and music. We went out and we gathered some staff and employee input. We talked to our Classified Employees Association. We also talked to our Teachers Association, our Professional Educators Coalition, which includes our site leaders, our principals, as well as members of our teaching and learning department. And this is just an example of a Jamboard from one of the sessions that we held with the principals. And key themes that came out was the need for increased classroom supports, again, including both certificated as well as classified employees. Mental health supports, there was a desire for more support in that and around social emotional learning. And then a really key theme was differentiation, recognizing that our schools are unique and different, and we need to be thoughtful in our planning and how we differentiate across our schools. So pulling those all together, some takeaways were within this plan, the need to differentiate our academic and social emotional supports, as well as to increase our mental health supports, and also our credit recovery options. Fostering peer interactions, mentoring, and community building is going to be key moving forward, as well as also providing and engaging real world experiences and opportunities for our students. So we put together a plan that's going to go before the board, as the superintendent said, on May 11th. And inside of you'll see across the four buckets, you'll recognize those are our 4 LCAP focus areas. And so inside of that, you'll see some actions that are, these are strategies that are within the ELO plan that are going before the board. And I just want to touch on a few of them to kind of explain a little bit more about it, but without getting too far ahead of ourselves, because there is going to be a full presentation on Tuesday for the board. But in terms of connected schools, a piece that's inside of the plan is the idea of building, fostering and expanding school community partnerships for the sake of engaging community and bringing more experiences to students that have a broad range of opportunity. And so I want to give you an example. We were this year at the end of this, just recently, we were able to launch a summer learning partnerships project, which was, it's an opportunity for schools to apply for funds to host summer programs at their school that are specific in responding to the unique needs and interests of their students, as well as engaging their unique community partners. And so we did an outreach with our schools. We've hosted a couple of community partnership forums where they were able to hear from, for example, local Parks and Recreation Department, the Aerospace Museum, FEA Nature Center, just various community partners about the opportunities that exist in the summer. And the idea is that they would then build plans in partnership that would provide more services to students. And so we're still receiving applications from our schools. The final due date on those are May 10th. But so far, we've gotten applications that touch 13 schools in our system, and they're serving over 700 students. So this is 700 more students in addition to all of our other summer school offerings that are a part of this partnership. So within the plan, we desire to expand this and continue this. And so you'll see that as a piece of it. In healthy environments, there's a lot of emphasis on social, emotional, mental health support. So inside the plan, there's staffing to support that work, as well as transitional supports for students and mentoring opportunities. In terms of engaging academics and really listening to the instructional supports that were desired during the day within the classroom, you will definitely see actions related to that within the plan when it's shared with the board, as well as supports for before, during, and after school. I want to touch on the summer school programs because this is a piece that has been in the works. We've really expanded our summer school offerings this year to be broader in their reach. And so, for example, we are continuing our camp invention work, but pre-COVID, we had about 700 students that were participating in that. And now we have 1,400 slots available for students. And this is Camp Invention is a K-8 program. And currently we have about 900 students enrolled in that program. We also expanded our summer school offerings to include a K-1 summer boost, knowing that we have a lot of kindergartners who need more experience going into the first grade. And so we have 600 spaces for students there. In terms of high school credit recovery options, there was a real expansion that we implemented this year. So pre-COVID, we had only one school that hosted a seat-based credit recovery program, and so that was an in-person program. It was specific to students who needed to recover their credits. We've taken that seat-based program and we've expanded it to be at every school this summer, so at every high school. And it is currently our enrollment is about 1,900 students for the first session. So that's an example of expansion. And we also expanded it so that students, it's not only for credit recovery, but a student can attend for grade improvement. And then our APEX courses have also expanded. So last year during COVID, we had 775 students participate in our APEX courses for credit recovery. And right now we are enrolled at over 900. So there's a lot of expansion in those spaces, and really focused still on targeting specific groups of students. So in terms of our next steps, like I mentioned, we will be taking to this board, we'll be taking the plan. So there will be an expanded presentation of what you've received today to the board next week on the 11th. It will go back to the board for action on May 25th. Some of the biggest work is really to develop and implement our recruitment and hiring plan for all the supplemental and support positions that are inside of the plan. I will tell you one of our biggest challenges right now with summer school is really finding the workforce to work in the program. And so that is the challenge that we currently have. We anticipate that that's going to continue to be a challenge for us. We are also going to continue our discussions with staff, partners, and labor groups to really develop the parameters for planning and implementation related to the ELO plan. And then we'll implement ongoing cycles of continuous improvement. So with that, I'll pause, and John, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Bessinelli. And so I noticed the next section we have here is our general visitor comment.
John, we got a question from a PAC member. So Chelsea had a question.
Okay.
So Chelsea,
Hi, Melissa. I have two questions actually. One is, have the targeted pupil populations been notified of these summer opportunities already?
Yes, so the priority enrollment, so I'm going to speak specifically for Camp Invention and then the K-1 boost. So those originated out of title funds. And so the targeted students, so title and EL students have been reached. And then there is a broader reach to other students currently happening right now.
Okay, I just asked because, as you know, most families are trying to make plans for the summer already. And since we want as many of the targeted students to participate in any of these programs that are going to be offered, the earlier you can just even let the parents know, hey, we are going to have a program for your child. It's coming, even if you don't have it board approved. I mean, I just think that would be helpful. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, and we've been already recruiting.
Very good. And then my second question is that at Sierra Oaks specifically, I just wanted to raise this. Sierra Oaks is having their roof redone this summer. And so we won't have any of these programs on our campus. And I just want to make sure that our students, that again, the targeted students at Sierra Oaks will have this opportunity at another school site.
Yeah, we have schools that have been partnering together to outreach to schools who cannot have programs because of construction and whatnot to recruit students to their site for the program.
Okay, our principal has said that it's been a challenge and that the schools he's contacted have said, no, sorry, our programs are full.
Well, we'll
so I
just work with your principal.
Appreciate that. And any other schools that have construction going on, obviously, all kids should have equal access.
Yep, thank you for that, Chelsea.
all right. Just want to check in case there's any other committee members.
Yes, we have questions. We have Ms. Canton. Damaris, go ahead.
Good evening. Good evening, Ms. Bessinelli. You were saying you are having hiring issues, even with your partnership with Sac State. Is that a source that we're utilizing? And will we be hiring staff that will look like our kids this year?
So yes, so we are working with Sac State. The recruitment that I was speaking of right now, the current challenge is our teaching staff right now is very exhausted from the school year. And so the challenge is finding, recruiting our teachers currently right now to teach summer school. But once the plan is discussed with the board, and if the board takes action to approve the plan, there will be extensive hiring occurring. And so, and some of that is broader than certificated, it's classified, which we currently still have classified vacancies. And so we do recognize that that is a very large challenge. And so there will be very strong recruitment efforts at play. And yes, Damaris, to your point, we, as a part of our diversity work, we are actively seeking to hire a diverse workforce.
Okay. If at any point that becomes difficult, there are some folks on this committee as well as other committees in this district who absolutely can afford you some opportunities of where to go. I know we've had this conversation for the last 20 years, and it seems like whenever we talk about hiring people of diverse backgrounds, and not you personally, Melissa, but I'm saying as a district, we seem to always say, oh, we couldn't find anybody. We can't find anybody. And so I know people say Rolodex, but I got a Rolodex that we can find some people. So let's not let that be the reason that we can't find people. And then my second question is, so when the board gets this packet next week, it will be filled in with exactly what we're hiring, who we're hiring, what community-based organizations we're hiring, what their role will be, et cetera.
Yeah, so you'll see much more detail because you'll see the plan that's going to be submitted to the county if they approve it.
Okay, so we've reached out to community-based organizations already, is that correct?
You will see that in the plan.
But Damaris, I would say some of those specifics, like exactly, will not be that in detail. There will be some generalities around the plan. I mean, you will see some specifics in certain areas. For example, doing some additional work with Project Optimism, groups like that. So some of those are called out, but there are some other areas that the specificity doesn't go into great detail. This is the plan we have to provide for the county. And I will actually share with this group that I think you're going to see a plan that where we've actually partnered both ELO and ESSER funds, where in my conversations with others, they're taking a very general approach to the money they get, and they're only putting in the ELO funds. And we're trying to say, look, we want to show how we're going to use ELO in partnership with ESSER, all of those funds over multi-years to make sure that we can, because we're not going to fix this problem in a summer. We're not going to fix this problem, in the summer and next year. Some we will, but this needs to be an ongoing plan for a number of years.
Oh, absolutely, Kent, and I understand that. I just want to make sure that we are not just going to the organizations that we have in our pocket that we're so familiar with that they're always on board. I want to make sure we're spreading a wide cast so that we are really getting what's out there. And so, I mean, I just want to make sure that we're not just using the same groups over and over and over again. Some of them have been good for us. Some of them have not been good for us. And I just want to see us make some different, we have some opportunities to make a difference. So thank you. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Kent.
Thank you, Damaris.
Let's see, I think it looks like Kim Brown has her hand raised. So Kim.
Yeah, and Tom, just
yeah, I wanted to find.
I'm sorry, Ms. Brown. I just wanted to give Tom a time check, so just so he's aware of the time there. So, Tom, if you want to move on after this, we can, and then maybe find an
right. Well, let's see. It looks like Kim Brown is the last PAC person that has a question, so we'll take hers and then go on to the next agenda item.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Ms. Brown. Thank you for being patient.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I wanted to find out about the summer programs. I noticed that when we say like our targeted students, there are still like some students like IEP students at certain sites that are not titled sites. Is there anything for them this summer?
Yes, there's an extended school year program that it's a part of the student's IEP plan.
Mhm.
And so they would have worked with their IEP team.
And not just IEP students, but also other targeted students, but at the schools that are not titled.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you mentioned an IEP student.
Well, that was just one
Okay.
population. Yeah.
Yes. So targeted students at non-title schools have also, like, there is a broad outreach happening right now to those, to students who qualify at non-title schools. So a low
What
income
are they?
EL, pardon me?
What are the programs that they qualify for or that they
So
can participate in?
most of the
I
ones,
haven't heard of any, so I'm just asking you because I looked and saw that this was only for schools that were titled.
so Camp Invention is an example of a program that is available for a student who is at a non-title school, who's a part of the targeted population, low income EL.
Okay, so. Okay, because I thought I saw on your website that it said that was only for titled schools, but it's for non-titled as well.
Melissa, all of the
At
credit
title.
recovery programs will be at, as she mentioned, all 9 of the high schools. We only have
Mhm.
2 title high schools, so that'll be offered at all 9. Many of the community partnerships that we've already got applications from, those are non-title schools. So you're going to see that throughout the district at both title and non-title schools.
Okay, I haven't seen anything so far, and I know summer is almost here. So I was just questioning because I have kids in junior high and in elementary, and
Okay,
I haven't seen anything.
for that feedback, we will follow up with staff about the outreach efforts.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the next agenda item of item 5, general visitor comment. So Laura, if you want to take it from
Yes,
here.
thank you, Tom. This is an opportunity for visitors to make comments. Please raise your hand if you have a comment to speak. You'll be limited to 2 minutes, and the law allows you to address the committee for items on the agenda and items that are not on the agenda, but we are not able to respond to non-agenda-sized items. So if we have any visitor comments, now is your opportunity. I see Mr. Avery raised your hand. Mr. Avery, go ahead, come off mute, and then I will begin the timer.
Great, thank you very much. And this is actually on the last agenda item. And I apologize if I missed this. Within the targeted student population, I'm curious if the district conducted any type of a gaps analysis or kind of looked at information from the last year to start identifying which student groups, even within kind of those targeted student groups, may have been most impacted within the last year and may have, you know, the furthest gap to fill within the development of ELO and or just how you're going to deploy those programs. And again, I apologize if I missed it. I'm sure it's in the plan, but I think a gaps analysis would probably be pretty helpful in targeting these funds and really helping people catch up from the past year. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Avery. Kimber, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. I also just wanted to reiterate a similar concern about outreach. I feel that there is a fair amount of gatekeeping for summer programs. I think that there's maybe some assumptions that if a student has an IEP and are being offered ESY, that they don't need to know about other summer opportunities. And so it's difficult to sometimes find that information or find out if there's support or there's kind of some mixed communication around what support may be available for students with disabilities and other programs. I feel like many families are sidelined back to ESY and they feel like they don't actually have any choices. So I just wanted to express that concern tonight, but thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kimber. Do we have any other visitor comments? Please raise your hand and we will acknowledge you. Okay, at this time, we do not have any more visitor comments, so we will go ahead and move forward.
All right, so that would be, Laura, you want to go ahead and do an attendance call, find out if we have a quorum?
You bet. Thank you, Tom. I've been writing names down as you entered the room, so I'm just going to do a verbal roll call. Amber.
Frantically unmuting. I'm here.
No worries. Thank you. Yes, please come off mute to respond to this as well as the minutes. Damaris. Caroline. Elnoria.
Nora's here. She just ran outside real quick. She's garbage out.
Okay, Stephanie. Jackson.
Yeah, here.
Okay. Heather. Heather is feeling ill tonight. She may join us later. Kim. Kim Jones Brown.
I'm here.
Thank you. Beth. Chelsea.
Present.
Thank you. Zena. Tom.
Here?
Phyllis. Steve.
Here.
And Jacqueline. Great, thank you. We have 9 PAC members in attendance currently, so we do have quorum.
Okay, great. With that, I think we can move to the approval of the minutes. Hopefully people look at the minutes, but I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Second. Steve Riggins.
Okay, is that Chelsea and Steve?
Yes, I believe that was Steve that seconded.
Yep.
Okay, any discussion, corrections or corrections on the minutes? Okay, hearing none, I will call for a vote to approve the minutes. Laura, yeah, I'll let you go through the approval process then.
Yes, and once again, remember to come off mute to approve the minutes, starting with Amber. Amber, do you approve the minutes?
Yes.
Damaris?
Abstain.
Elnora? Stephanie? Did we lose Stephanie? Stephanie, are you on mute? Okay, Kim?
Yes.
Thank you. Chelsea?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And Jacqueline?
Yes.
Okay. So Stephanie, are you back?
And if for some reason they can't come off mute, maybe they can simply type in the chat that they approve. Correct. Or abstain.
Did you get Nora's approval? She said we both approve.
Okay. Thank you. With that, the minutes are approved.
Okay, thank you. Next item is committee business, which discussion item. I don't have anything that I have. Let's see. Oh, yes. Sorry. Thank you. It's looking at the slide. Just a reminder that at our last and final meeting is elections of the next chair and assistant chair. Also, at our last meeting, Damaris Canton, who has now served for 3 two-year terms, a total of 6 years. That will be her last meeting per the bylaws, that there's a term limit of 3 two-year terms. So I think she is our most senior member, and actually I'm not sure if there's anybody else that has actually been on the committee for as many as 6 years, although I think we may have had a couple that may have been on for 5 years before. So anyway, that's it. And then also at our June meeting, we will be reviewing the superintendent responses. That's the only committee business I had. Is there any PAC members that have any items of committee business they'd like to bring forward? Okay.
I see a hand raised. Damaris?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Tom. Yes, I'm finally getting paroled, probation, whatever you want to call it. I'm out. But I do want to talk about this committee and how we get members for this committee. I've served on several district-wide committees, curriculum and standards being the one besides this one that I was there for the longest, I think 14 years. And there was more stability on that committee. We didn't have to always worry about quorum. I think part of that is because it seems like we're not doing a good job of recruiting. I'm not sure if we should not have it be such a staff involved thing, or if it should be, I'm not really sure what we need to do, but we need to do something to get a little more consistency. If we look back on the number of people that have been here on this committee since I've been here, I think so many people, it's like one meeting, maybe two. And you know, it takes a while to get into a committee and understand what's going on, and before you can really be as effective as you really want to be. So I think if we could just look for some opportunities to perhaps do some of that, figuring out what it is we need to do to, one, recruit and retain members for important committees, and also parents. You know, I've been harping on this for a quarter of a century already. We need to do a better job of retaining, and part of this has become kind of a social thing where it's, oh, I get appointed by a board member or a staff member says, oh, so-and-so should be appointed to this, but they don't really want to do the work. It's not really what they're passionate about, and so they don't stay. So that's my thing. I just want us going forward to have a more involvement, consistent involvement that we can count on. We ask our students to show up. We should set a really good example. This is probably one of the first committees that they will be on like this, and to not even, they don't get to know anybody because nobody's really here long enough. Thank you. And thanks everyone for the comments. I appreciate you all.
Thank you, Damaris. I really appreciate it. All right. Let's see, unless there's any other committee members that have anything they want to bring up as committee business, then I think we can move to our next agenda item. And I believe I give the floor to you, John. Is that correct?
All right, thanks, Tom. And so I'm going to share my screen here, Laura, if you want to stop the share there. Go. Excellent. Okay. All right, so folks, for the next about hour and a half or so, we're going to be really starting to get ourselves going with reviewing our LCAP draft here. And we're going to begin with the first activity here by reactivating our thinking, by reviewing some of the stakeholder voice, input, and considerations that have been shared thus far. So the two documents, the two that you'll be engaging with for the first part of this activity, is the Stakeholder Engagement Key Themes, which you have all seen at some point. These are that Deputy Superintendent Bassanelli referred to as well, which were the key themes from all the stakeholder groups. And we're also including the PAC considerations that you all provided at last month's meeting in March, based off of the key theme summary that stakeholders provided. So what we're going to have you do here is we're going to put you in breakout rooms for about 10 minutes or so. And we'd like you to take a few minutes to review the actions and then, to review the input. And then in groups, you can begin discussing and in reactivating your thinking around this input. A PDF of the stakeholder input is going to be available in the chat, so you can access that right now. And then facilitators, if you would please just be mindful of monitoring time. And if you could support the discussion by making sure everyone has a chance to participate as well. And then just as a final note, there's nothing to write during this section. So this is just a group discussion to reactivate our thinking around the input that's been provided thus far by our stakeholder groups, as well as the PAC considerations. So with that, Laura, if you want to go into breakout rooms, I think we'll be ready to go to start this first activity here. All right, welcome back, everybody. Okay, so that was a little bit of a warm up here for our next section here. So we're going to transition here now into the draft plan of our LCAP. And so for the next little bit of time here is we're going to provide an overview of the LCAP as well as a timeline. Share with you the stakeholders that we engaged throughout this process, how that led to the development of the strategic framework, and then most recently the LCAP draft. And then there'll be some time at the end for you all to start generating questions for our superintendent using a Google Doc that we will support you with. So to begin, so for those of us that are new to this, the LCAP, it's the Local Control Accountability Plan. It's a 3-year plan that describes the goals, the actions, the services, and expenditures to support positive student outcomes. And it emphasizes our English learners, foster youth, students experiencing homelessness, and our low-income student groups. It also emphasizes meaningful stakeholder engagement and is really grounded in 2 core principles around equity and continuous improvement. So what I want to do here is provide you with a little bit of a timeline about where we've been, where we are now, and where we're going. So stakeholder groups came together last year to support the planning of the 21-24 LCAP, specifically through our strategic planning, regional community forums, cultural brokers network, and parent advisory committees. And then in March last year, COVID hit and the focus shifted to supporting our students and families with distance learning, and more recently transitioning back to in-person learning. And then since January, we have been engaging stakeholders across our district, including students, staff, and families. And we asked questions that focused on 3 areas, which you just reviewed, around student learning, feeling connected to school, and summer programs. And then questions that we generated there were also aligned to our 4 focus areas, which we'll be seeing this evening, as well as our learning continuity plan themes. At our last meeting, you all had an opportunity to review the themes that emerged across groups and then use that information to build upon and or revise the considerations that were made by the PAC last year. We use that information to help inform our 21-24 actions, which will be shared this evening through our draft LCAP. And then after this evening, we will receive final considerations and then go for board approval in June. So as I mentioned before, that one of the core principles of the LCAP is centered around equity. And our strategy for leading this work is focused on a strategy of reflection, action, and impact, specifically understanding and learning about what our students need, bringing that understanding into action with coherence and in partnership with stakeholders, and then measuring and holding ourselves responsible for the impact of our work. The second core principle of the LCAP, as I mentioned, is continuous improvement. And so one way that we can apply our equity strategy is through our model for continuous improvement, where throughout this process, there are opportunities for reflection, action, and measuring impact. Our model for continuous improvement is also aligned to and is at the center of the statewide accountability system, which includes, as you can see here, it's connected to the LCAP and our SIPSAs, the school dashboards, differentiated assistance, and system of support. So the model for continuous improvement that we are using is aligned in, to the state, is what the state is using as well. So here I just want to show that the development of the LCAP was done in partnership with various stakeholder groups, with the majority of them being student groups, as you can see here. So these are some of the groups that you just were able to review and hear their input on that stakeholder input theme summary that you just reviewed. And over the last few years, stakeholders have been able to engage in a variety of different activities, everything from the Strategic Planning Task Force to the regional school community forums, the cultural broker network, and empathy gathering as well. And so in partnership with these groups and then using these activities, last year we were able to develop our strategic framework, which is essentially our theory and plan for improvement. So in other words, if we start reading this from left to right, it would read, if we want to achieve our mission, then we need to live out our values by applying an equity lens, using a theory for continuous improvement that targets our district focus areas, which is in our LCAP, and school goals, which would be in our SIPSES. And then here's just another look at our strategic framework with each of the components defined. So now that brings us to our review of our draft LCAP, which is going to be divided this evening into 4 sections that are connected to our model for continuous improvement. So these sections include, we have our goals and focus areas that we are aiming to achieve, the metrics that we are using to assess progress in reaching our goals, stakeholder input that informed our actions, and then the actions we will implement to achieve our goal. And so this is the template that you will be interacting with now for the next chunk of time. And so you can just see here that on each of the templates here, we'll have a goal listed, metrics that also includes your baseline and desired outcome, along with the stakeholder input themes that you just reviewed, but purposely connected to each of these goals so you can see the direct alignment, and then actions as well as projected 21-22 budget for you to see. So we're going to include this right now in the chat, but in your breakout rooms, based off of what you learned from the stakeholder themes and considerations, we'd like you to review and discuss the LCAP draft with your group, and there'll be about 10 minutes per goal. And to guide your discussion, we'd like you to really address these 2 questions. Where do you see connections between the stakeholder input themes and the actions? And then what questions does this plan start to raise for you? So specifically, I'm going to ask that you look at the stakeholder input themes that are in this section right here, this 3rd section, and see if you can find connections between what's in the input themes and the direct connections that you see in the actions on the bottom. Now for facilitators during this section, would be a great help if you could please just help us monitor time again and support the group discussion by making sure that everyone has a chance to participate. And again, I just wanted to highlight that in this section, there's nothing to write. We're still just in a group discussion. Our next breakout room will have some time to collect some input. So for right now, it's just about facilitating the conversation, reviewing the plan, and really trying to focus on these 2 questions. All right, everybody, welcome back. And so for the last, we're going to put you back out in your breakout rooms one final time. And for the last section of this evening here, we're going to have you start to generate some questions for the superintendent that are connected to the LCAP, which will then be reviewed and responded to in writing. So the directions for this next section, we're going to give you about 15 minutes. Facilitators have a Google Doc and they will be capturing your questions in this document. And as I mentioned before, please develop questions for the superintendent connected to the LCAP. I underline that because, like for example, if you have a question about whether or not we are returning, like what the plan is for a return in August, a great question. That is outside of the scope of the LCAP. So just try to keep the questions connected to the LCAP plan if possible. And to help support that, we're going to ask you to try to align your questions to a specific LCAP goal, a metric, or action. And then facilitators, like as I mentioned, if you could please write down the questions in the shared doc. So this is where we really need you to help capture that thinking for us. And then if you could also, again, support the group in the discussion just by making sure that everyone has a chance to participate. So with that, once again, I'm going to turn it over.
Well, before we go, I see that Chelsea has a question.
Yeah, so one of the things that came up in our breakout group, and this might provide clarity to all the other groups, there are things that we're not seeing in the LCAP plan that we know are happening next year. And I'm wondering if those things are being funded with other state dollars or federal dollars that are not part of the LCAP, but things like the virtual academy that might happen next year and all the summer programs, the learning continuity plan programs. So are those part of the LCAP or not?
So Chelsea, that's a great point. So we're going to do 2 things. One, I still think you should include that as a question for a response. And 2, the short answer to that is yes, the LCAP does not capture everything that the district does, but a portion of it, specifically to support our English learners or our unduplicated student groups. So if you want to include that question, absolutely, that's a great question to include. But just to answer it, the short answer to your question is yes, there are other things that occur that are funded out of other sources that we do that are not included in the LCAP.
Okay, we will include those questions.
All right, thank you, Chelsea. And so Laura, we're ready when you're ready.
All right. Our group still had a lot of questions that I scribbled down. I'm just typing furiously now. So I just wanted to
Okay,
get
no worries. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I think they had more that I didn't quite capture. So I'm not sure. We had a lot of questions.
You got it.
Yes, that was not enough time for questions.
Yes, so that's a great point. So our next steps then is we're going to be taking questions through tomorrow at 5 p.m. So if you have questions between now and then, please keep submitting them. You can send them to Laura and we'll include them in this document. And then the plan is on Monday, May 10th, we will submit these questions to the superintendent. And then 10 days later, on May 20th, we will be presenting the draft LCAP to DLAC. And then the following day, we will be submitting those questions to the superintendent as well. And then on May 28th, we will have this written responses to LCAP PAC and DLAC. And then on June 8th, we will go to draft public review for board discussion. And then June 22nd will be the board approval here. Before I turn it over to Tom for the general visitor comments here, I just wanted to thank you all for a really thoughtful discussion this evening. Our hope is that in reviewing this plan that you really felt like we lived up to our LCAP PAC values that we've identified around voice, access, and clarity, specifically that you heard and saw your voice in the plan, and that the LCAP you felt was clear, that it was accessible and understandable. So I just want to thank you all again for being a part of that important conversation this evening. And then finally, I just want to give out a huge, huge thank you to our facilitators. One, for just being so generous with your time and doing such a great job facilitating this important conversation this evening. So I just wanted to appreciate all of you for your hard work there. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom, and then Kenan will end, well, after Tom does the general visitor comments, we're going to have Kenan who will wrap us up with a debrief of some glows and grows. So
Okay,
Tom,
let's see. Thank you. Let's see, I have a question. Let's see. Okay, anyway, I have a question because tonight is the first time that we have seen this document, this LCAP draft with baseline data. It's also the first time that we have seen this document with any budgetary information. And given that it looks like DLAC can submit questions up until I think May 21st, can we have some more time as a committee if we have questions to look? I mean, there is a lot of information. I think we need more than a day to process this document, which I believe you said will be sent out to us, that will have the baseline data as well as budgetary information. So I would like to request that we have more time than tomorrow, and that this document be sent out to LCAP members, and preferably I would like to have LCAP members have at least 72 hours to look at this document before there is a deadline of submitting questions.
Okay, I think that's a fair question, Tom. So yes, the short answer is we'll send out the document this evening to everyone. Like I said, based off of the conversations that you and I have had, we've been making adjustments up through today because we sent the draft on Friday. You provided some additional recommendations, which we accommodated to, which were great suggestions. So hopefully that was helpful for the conversation this evening. So yeah, 72 hours, we can do that because what we do have is a short turnaround time. And so we want to make sure we're able to address all the questions. So I think if we send it out tonight, we can accept comments through Sunday because we are on a tight timeline to submit the questions to our superintendent on Monday. We want to make sure we can provide thoughtful answers to the questions. So yeah, that's great. Thank you, Tom, for bringing that up.
Okay, I greatly appreciate you making that accommodations for us. I think that would allow our committee as an advisory committee to the school board to be able to digest, and hopefully if there is additional recommendations that come from our committee, they would come from a point of being informed on this new budgetary information and this new baseline data. So thank you very much for for making that accommodation.
Of course.
And let's see, so let's see, I guess I'll check, is there any other, let's see, Chelsea, are there some questions?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Chelsea.
John, are you going to be able to send us the document with the list of questions that were generated tonight? Is that the document you're going to send?
No, the document that Tom is asking for is, so on Friday, we provided the draft LCAP, but it didn't have the baseline and desired outcomes section, and it didn't have the budgetary section at the time. And so Tom was requesting that we send that out. And so that's what we were going to send out this evening, was that piece.
I see. I see. So in our breakout group, we brainstormed a bunch of questions, but we did not get to type them all in. So is it possible to send out, after the facilitators have had time to type in all the questions this evening, is it possible to send that document out to all the LCAP members so we can see what questions made it onto that list and then which questions we need to submit separately?
Sure, we can put it for viewing, and then we'd still like you just to submit your questions via email. Perfect. All right.
Yeah, just to view is perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. That's exactly what I was asking for. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, I could see you in the chat. Yes.
Right, and that will be helpful for us so we don't get the same question repeated. So that's thank you for offering that.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So I think that covers. I don't see any hands raised, so I think we'll move on to let's see, general visitor comments, and let's see. Oh, Damaris has her hand raised. So Damaris.
I just have a quick question. I've asked this before. Is there any particular reason that the chat is turned off for us, but not for staff? I mean, like, we can't chat between us. We can only chat to everyone and or a staff member. I'm just curious as to why that's.
I think that's a Zoom thing. It's a Zoom thing where just you can only chat to the hosts or co-hosts.
I believe it's configurable.
That's not, I'm doing a lot of Zooming and you can chat with everybody that's in there. It had to have been put into play.
Yeah, our last meeting, you could chat with anyone.
It's probably a setting in the Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I just find it. It's just
Anyway. I'll quickly take this and bounce this quickly to committee business. So I'd like to make a recommendation under committee business that chat be enabled in such a way that committee members can in future Zoom sessions be able to chat with other committee members.
Hey, Tom, I can say as a staff member, I can't chat either with individuals. So, and that's fine. The other thing I want to say is, John, if we need a little bit, I don't want anyone to feel like they didn't get time to get their questions answered. So, you know, if we have to extend another day or two, we'll do what we need to so folks can see the questions, and then if there are any additional on that. The one thing I think John said earlier that was really good is let's try and do the question specific to this. I think his example was good. It's like, okay, what's the plan for opening in the fall? Well, because I think last year we got like a lot of questions that had nothing to do with the actual LCAP. And so that would really help us. So what I would say is I'm willing to extend the time. Let's make sure the questions are actually associated with the LCAP and not these really broad questions that go outside that.
Thank you. That's very, very good direction and comments, and very appropriate because we should be, as an LCAP committee, hopefully we can differentiate what is actually, now, especially now that we have a draft, then our questions hopefully can be tied directly to what we see in the draft as it exists now. Thank you very much. Okay, then I will go to general visitor comment, agenda item 12.
Yes, and at this time, if we have any visitor comments, now is the opportunity to raise your hand. We will not be able to comment on your comment or question, but we will certainly take note of it and get back to you. Do we have any questions from visitors? Okay, I do not see any hand raised, so we will go on. It's 8:28 right now. John, would you, we know Kenan is going to do the closeout.
Yeah, so Kenan, we've got a few minutes here. Do you want to close us out this evening? We'd love to have you do that for us.
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Kenan, in case we haven't met yet. There's obviously been a lot of great discussion tonight, and I think it's very beneficial to have these conversations before we finalize the LCAP. So a part of this whole process is obviously to kind of take a step back and to look.
Oh, you're on mute, Kenan. Kenan, you're on mute.
Yep,
No worries.
that's my bad. So like I was saying, my name is Kenan, in case we haven't met yet. And I was just saying that we pretty much have had a lot of beneficial conversations tonight, which is, I mean, very well for the LCAP, especially now it's in draft before we finalize it. So I definitely think another important part is to kind of take a step back and to, appreciate what we've done tonight alone and over the past couple of months. So we're going to do some glows and grows. So pretty much, if you could all think of something that we would like to improve on next time and something that went very well today and in the previous few meetings. And we'll take like maybe 30 seconds to just kind of think about some ideas. I could go first if you guys want me to, and then we'll kind of like go around popcorn style if that works for you. So for me, a grow or a glow, I guess, would be the breakout rooms where we were able to collaborate in small groups to make those questions and to, actually focus on certain topics that we could explore with other people. And I think a grow would be to spend more time and, more than, the 15 minutes allotments to develop these ideas, which, I mean, obviously we can't because we have to finish by 8:30, but hopefully we'll have some time this week to write those questions out. Looks like there's some going in the chat. I can't read those because I'm on my phone. I had a problem with my computer. So
I can get it for you, Kenan.
thank you.
You bet. Let me back up a little bit. From Stephanie. Stephanie said, my glow, I just wanted to let everyone know that I am very appreciative of the support, advice, and compassion that has helped me get through this time right now. I can't exit tonight without letting you all know that I really appreciate it. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie. And is there anyone else who would like to share tonight?
Yeah, I would like to say thank you very, very much to, for one, John and Laura for coordinating this. And we've had multiple meetings and trying to put together this agenda in a meaningful way. And I realize that, due to COVID, some of the timelines have been extremely tight. So I've been very appreciative of the responsiveness from the LCAP team. And I also want to thank our board liaisons, Paula and Mike McKibben, as well as the superintendent for attending tonight and for being present to hear the conversation and discussion. And I would also like to say, I was very pleased that Neelam, who is not an official LCAP member, but she has been very involved and interested and has provided an opportunity for me to try to give her information to try and figure out a way to sort of curate some information for bringing people on board, which I'm hoping we might incorporate in the future with an onboarding process. So those are the glows I wanted to mention tonight. Thank you very much.
I have a grow and a glow too.
Thank you, everyone. And as my principal, Leslie and Laura, Tom, everyone who are here, I'm so glad as being the part of meeting and learning many things over here. Thank you again.
Thank you, Damaris. One quick glow in the chat box from Steve Rubens is learning that you all exist.
And I have a grow and a glow too. This is Kim. My grow is that I would like to see our groups a little more diversified. A lot of times that I end up in the breakout rooms, it's primarily African Americans. I'd just like to see a little more diversity in the breakout rooms. Tonight it was 3 African Americans, and I'm not too sure what the nationality of the other young lady was, but I believe she was a minority as well. And then the glow is that I love the LCAP because we're able to voice ourselves freely. And I like the direction and the positive direction that all these action items are going to.
Thank you, Kim. We will definitely make note of future breakout rooms, how we organize them. Thank you for that comment.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have any more grows or glows that you would like to share out tonight?
I'll take a glow. Keenan, you were awesome. You had amazing questions. Keenan is graduating. He is a senior. So we'll be losing him soon. But Keenan is the kind of student, and Neelam are the students that they are the Paulas of the future, right? They are involved, they are engaged, and they have access to all that San Juan, all the best that San Juan has to offer. And I would just like to see us make sure that there are more students like them, and that all students have access to everything, and they can choose and not fight to be in a program that doesn't necessarily think that they should be there. So congratulations, Keenan.
Thank you, thank you.
Hey, Kenan, can I read a couple more real quick? I know it's 8:35. Just want to share that Clarissa mentioned. It's wonderful to see how each of you is so considerate of all students in the district. Thank you for your dedication and time. So thank you, Clarissa. And then Chelsea, you have a grow in the chat box. Did you verbalize it, or would you like me to read it?
I'm happy to say it. So
Okay.
my glow is that the breakout groups continue to be a very effective tool to have good conversations. So well done there. The grow is just that the time allotment for each breakout session was not quite right tonight. We needed more time for the question section. So just that would be the only area for growth for next time.
You want to say bye? You want to say bye to people? I'm almost done. Want to say bye? Oh, my sons want to say bye.
All right.
All right.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
So cute.
I think that's
All right.
a perfect way for us to end this evening. Everyone, thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
You guys have
Bye.
Bye. Have a good night,
a
everyone.
wonderful
Good
evening.
night, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Be safe, be blessed.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night, Kent. You have a good night.
I think he dropped off, Damaris. Okay.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.